Alright, starting recording. Alright, hi everyone, this is Hanson Wu presenting for Information Security Club Network Fundamentals. Unfortunately, the recording had a problem and the audio wasn't in there for some reason, so I'm redoing the recording. It's okay, this time will be much more organized and much faster without hiccups. Alright, so the way this presentation is going to work versus before, I'm just going to jump straight into it and start getting things set up and explain on the way. So also, instead of virtual machines, I'm going to be using a VPS, Virtual Private Server, from Linode. Alright, so it allows you to get up and running a lot faster. Alright, just signing in. Always remember your two-factor auth. Two-factor authentication is a very good idea. Alright, so once you get logged in, you'll basically just add a Linode box. This will be the same for any other hosting provider. Cheapest option works. And add it, and it will get created by Linode's data centers. The way this works is basically the same depending on, the same regardless of what hosting provider. So there's DigitalOcean, AWS, and I think there's a few other providers, and yeah, it's basically the same. Alright, so we deploy an image, and there's some preset operating systems. Choose just Ubuntu 16.04. So allocate everything. You choose a password for the root user, which is going to be like the it's basically the primary user, highest privilege user, but everything will be done with a lower privilege user. So that's equivalent to like system on Windows, but you always log in and operate as say Adam Smith on that computer. So we're just gonna, first off, just access as the root user. So just set something up. I'm just gonna put security now ! For complexity requirements. And let's see, so it's creating the disk, so it uses the pre-built image and just writes it to a new disk that the VPS uses, and it's all set up. So we just boot it up. Yep, boot it up. So in the original presentation, someone asked around here, I think, how this works. Essentially, Linode has software running on there, and that receives a request to deploy a new Linode box or a certain image, and they basically have it as an interface to their hypervisor. So like VMware, ESXi, Xen, what is it? I think OpenStack or something like that, or KVM, and basically it automatically deploys these VM images. Let's see, so it's booted up and running, so just go to remote access so you know what IP address it is. And alright, here's the, pause the recording. Here's the first thing we run up against. This is SSH. So SSH basically means secure shell, man for the manual pages. So it's basically just means secure shell, and it's basically allows you to type terminal commands like here into the remote machine. SSH is also like an encryption and authentication wrapper, so you could use it for a lot of other different cases, as I'll show later on. But alright, so basically the format of SSH is the user at the server. It could either be like a domain name, so like example.com, or like some IP address, In this case, we're just logging in as the user into the IP address. Alright, and it's going to ask me, so as part of how SSH works, there's host keys basically to identify, or fingerprints to identify the server. And this is used for authentication. And someone asked originally how you know that this is a legitimate host key. Well, essentially, the man in the middle is actually a very hard attack to successfully execute in the real world in terms of executing it like across the board. Like, for example, if you use the internet at home and you go to Starbucks later, you're not going to be under a man in the middle attack both times. I'm just going to say yes before this times out. So security now. Alright, I'm in. Yeah, so the idea is essentially that you're not going to be under a man-in-the-middle attack at like the internet service provider level or like nation level, or at least if you are, then it well, it's essentially that's like out of the scope in this case. If I have that correct. See, so logged in as the root user, so just who am I? The current user I'm logged in as root. So the problem right here is that if you deploy and run things as root, that has the potential, one, to mess up local files and local settings, because that service is running as root and it has the highest privilege, and if it accidentally does something wrong, then it could alter system files. So you want to have separation of privileges for that. And also because if you're running something as root, and if someone exploits that, like let's say, just a very basic example, let's say you're running like a web server as root, and that web server gets exploited and the attacker drops into a shell. So if you're running as a lower privilege user, they would just have a shell and they'd have to privilege escalate to root. However, if you run that web server as root, then they they drop into a shell and they're automatically root, and they can do whatever they want basically. So you want to create a user, in this case dev, just for developer. So create a password for them. Just for simplicity, it's also going to be security now, because security is a good idea. And alright, user is created. So from here you do SU, which is just switch user to your dev. Alright, and just CD to change back directory to the just to the home directory. Print working directory. Yeah, I'm in the dev's home directory. So just probably first thing anyone, or primary thing anyone will want to do is do sudo apt update, except we're not in the sudoers file, as you can see here, which basically means that we're not allowed to do super user operations or commands. So what we have to do is add, see if I can remember the command, add user -g, I think, ag, see, yeah, I don't usually do these things. Usually it's just you set it the first time and that's it. See. Okay, I'm just gonna resort to Google. It's okay, some things like this you just have to Google search for. It's part of doing security well, is Google searching. There we go. User mod. Yeah. Okay. Dev. Alright, so change back to dev. Just gonna try this out. Sudo, just some command. Security now. Alright, yeah, works fine. So sudo apt update just to confirm. Yep. Alright, so first thing most people would probably do is in this case it's just to install some packages that for stuff you deploy. So sudo apt install anything from Python 3, let's see, Python 3 and Python 3 pip. Let's see, Nginx for web server. Maybe you want to do Node.js. Oops, you don't need commas here. Let's see, Node.js, npm. What else is there? Yeah, it's just, we're good for now. And all those dependencies, oh joy. Alright, so let's see what else is there. Right, so now I'm just going to demonstrate that you could see, do I have the IP address? I just realized I should probably zoom in for you guys. So you could SSH directly in as the dev user at the IP address. And that should work. Oh, there we go. Security now. Alright, yeah, other person is logged in. Or I mean, the other session is logged in. This is a bit slow. I'm just going to reconnect. Alright, hold on a second. Alright, so it's a lot faster now. Let's see. Yeah, so it's a lot more snappier. Let's see, so I was going on about SSH. Right, so in the meantime, all the other packages had actually finished installing, but I'm going to talk a little bit about SSH. So important directories to know if there's the etc. Or etc. however you want to pronounce it, SSH. And here's going to be some SSH configuration files. Most importantly, I'm going to focus on this. So note that it is the user and group ownership is root. So this is because these are like system configuration files, and basically you don't want just anyone to edit them because they control access to your server in this case, or they configure some important behavior for your server, or not server, any Linux machine. So I mean, it's just like how the I think C drive Windows is protected to certain users. But anyway, so you have to do sudo vim if you want to edit it, sht config. So one of the important parts of this, because we logged in as root, so one of the essential parts to edit is permit root login, so we want to disable it. Basically what this means is that you can't do like SSH as root. Yeah. So there's several reasons why. Two of the big ones is that root is basically like the universal username. So if you set up the account really poorly and it's just password as the root password, or like I don't know, like admin, or like, you know, one of the something that will appear in a word list, someone could just brute force that or throw a dictionary at it and basically crack your root password and log into your server. That's the first problem. The second problem is that if and when they do log in as root, they're basically already root. They're already taken over the server or the Linux machine. Sorry. In this case, it's a server, but this Linode box I just set up could be anything. It's just like basic security know-how. It's probably not even security. It's just like to some degree it's just essentials for using a Linux machine. So anyways, you just disabled the root login. And let's see. So these config files are pre-generated, and I think they use some sort of defaults, but you could also set up what ciphers specifically you allow. So ciphers, I think there's like arc4, I think there's like AES counter, something like that. And there's some lists available of like strong configuration files. I think like Cipher List. I haven't really looked too much into these. They seem decent though. You could find elsewhere online some various strong configuration files. Always make sure you read through these. Please read through these and make sure you understand what they mean though. So let's see. Open SSH server. Yeah. So another thing to keep in mind for Cipher settings. Where are they? Just straight up the Cipher list, or I mean the configuration. I think it's just snippets and explanation right now. But something to know for basically the encryption algorithms. Using older encryption methods is actually very bad for the security ecosystem as a whole, because if you take the 166 course and you learn about protocols, basically different protocols have to share what kind of encryption algorithms they support, and so they basically have to support older encryption algorithms that are deprecated and potentially obsolete and potentially vulnerable. So this was basically why the Poodle attack against TLS 1.0 was a thing. It was because SSL version 3 was basically broken, and TLS was not broken, but a lot of web servers out there supported downgrading to SSL. So you may support all these fancy algorithms, and all these might be secure, for example, but let's say triple DES. Let's say for all of a sudden there's an exploit out there, and you know it's toast. You could break it in half a second or something. I don't know. So you can support all of these, and that's fine and dandy. But if you get the algorithm downgraded to triple DES, then yeah, you're toast. Let's see. So, I mean, you don't have to only allow AES-256 or Cha-Cha-20 Poly, which is one of the newer algorithms out there. But I mean, just make sure you know what you're putting in your configuration files, and make sure the settings you have are fit for your threat model and fit for what you're trying to do. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's all I want to say for that part. Yeah, in this case, we don't really have to care much about the ciphers. Let's see, the main part was, was the permit root login. Password authentication, if you're going to be logging in with keys, like public-private keys, then this will be very useful to disable completely for machines that you want to have, hardened down and as secure as possible. But we want to write the changes and quit. Speaking of keygen, or SSH keys, you basically just do SSH keygen, and there's some other parameters. I think there's like T or C for what kind of cipher, what kind of cipher you want. There's like elliptical curve digital signing algorithm. I don't know if it's dash C or T, but I recommend it mostly because it's just, if there's something that's more secure, you might as well just go with that, even if none of the options are necessarily broken. And afterwards, you basically do SSH Copy ID, I believe it was. Right, so you do SSH Copy ID and to the remote machine. So in this case, it would be like so it would be SSH Copy ID. Let's say, so all these keys will be generated to .ssh. So let's see, like I have, come on. Alright, so I messed up. It's SSH Copy ID -I for identity file, which basically means the public key file. So it's like .ssh ID elliptical curve digital signing algorithm .pub for the public key. Public key because that's going to be the one that the server uses to identify you, and